Now, one great example I saw out there was in Valencia. And this was a flash mob opera at a marketplace in Valencia. I think a little thing to that is just a month ago or so, the Audience 2.0 report from the National Endowment for the Arts came out, and they said that electronic participation is about 18% of the population in classical music, whereas live events is 9%. Another thing is that there seem to be fewer barriers, of course, in participating electronically. And you see this in the increased diversity, not a whole lot, but you do see an increased diversity in age, economical, education, those types of differences. Now, thinking about that, you know, this little YouTube video is kind of an art project too. You know, yes, it's a marketing thing, but it's also an art thing. I'm also looking at operabayou.com, which is this festival in Helsinki that is trying to crowdsource an entire opera, not just by tweeting, but having a lot of input from everywhere. The Art Institute in Chicago did kind of a project that blurs the line between marketing and art, where they hid 500 red cubes all over Chicago and created an art project out of that. So I think, you know, you can have fun. You can think about it in art and marketing, where it kind of blurs the line. Now, these videos, they received more than 4 million views. You only see 3.8 there, but there were some other same versions of the video that received about 200,000 views. In just 2 months, it exceeded 2 million views. Now, that wasn't the only thing they did with this, though. They also created this website. You know, this is known as the Opera, where it was a purpose-built microsite. 30,000 visitors in 2 months, and they had a bunch of things with it. On the left, you see a brochure that they created, and it basically says, you know, all you need for opera is a heart and emotion. You don't need anything else. You know, it tried to make opera accessible, and then of course they had the video on there that you could view. But they also had links to Facebook, their Twitter account, their MySpace account, their Flickr account. So they really had a cross-platform feel. And they allowed comments on the site. So they had over 500 comments on the site, and I believe, yeah, 95% of comments, all comments on Facebook, on YouTube, were 95% positive. Then they had the print brochure, which included a 40% off coupon. And that's, of course, a nice marketing aspect to, offline marketing aspect to this online campaign. The marketing director, I looked up an interview. I hope I translated this correctly, or I hope Google translated this correctly from Spanish. You know, it's about making the place theirs, and you know, only requirement is to feel and have emotions. And a little side note on the bottom, you know, a lot of questions I get is, well, is my audience online? Well, as you can see, the YouTube video was most popular with about the same age group as those who attend classical music concerts. So yes, your audience is online. Now, the interesting thing that I was back and forth with one of the project people via email, and the interesting thing I thought was that the marketing director actually got fired after a month or so because the people at his organization didn't like this project. Now, little did they know that then all of a sudden they would go on and get all these millions of views and really create all this these great comments. So I think that's a little bit of a telling story of an organization that might not have gotten it, and a marketing director who was a little bit ahead of his time. Sure. Okay. I'll hurry up. Opera Applaud, talking about free agents. You know, it was a Twitter thing created by a journalist, a freelance journalist, literally a free agent. It's a cute idea. You know, tweet your opera in 140 characters. You know, try to summarize an opera in 140 characters. What was great about that was that lots of opera companies all across the country and even the world participated in it and really did really helped make this a great event. They provided lots of tickets. They you know, it was a risk-free way of trying to dip into social media for those companies with the help of a free agent. One good example of cross-platform pollination integration, I think, is the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. They prominently feature their Facebook page on the front page of their website. They highlight all the options on a separate page that they have. Their blog is featured on the front page. And this really stimulates you know, growing your fan base and trying to reach out in different ways. On their Facebook account, they also have different things. And one thing I wanted to mention, they have a custom tab with targeted information for students. Now, I have not yet seen any orchestra with a customized landing page for their, or welcome page for their Facebook account. Studies have shown that if you do have that, and it's very easy to create with just, all you need to know is HTML, which if you have a web developer, they can create a page.
There's a free app that also do it.
Oh,
That's like
even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
What did you say?
There's a free app that doesn't require you knowing the code. It has a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, so it looks like a word processor. And there's actually somebody who created an entire website with tips about customized Facebook tabs. I can throw out the URL. I just came across it. There's people out there that like go crazy on this stuff.
The important part is, I think, is that one study showed that the conversion rate of people liking your page after they land on the welcome page was 47% liked it if you had a welcome tab, versus 23% that liked it if you didn't have a welcome tab. So you convert a lot more people becoming your fan on Facebook. A Twitter landing page is an interesting concept, I think. Basically, you can provide a URL on your Twitter page. Most people do, you know, go to stlouissymphony.org. But what if you create a specific page, you know, thank you for joining us from our Twitter page, and try to come up with a call of action for them. They also do mobile integration. St. Louis does iPhone apps. A lot of organizations now. Through instantencore.com, you can buy your own iPhone app. And Foursquare is the latest thing. I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. I know we have to run through it. I'd say go to Foursquare.com and play around with it. It's really a fun type of tool where you can offer, as an organization, you can offer discounts for people who come to your venue frequently or have some kind of fun with it.
You got to think about 4 kinds of ROI. I just doesn't stand for investment. It stands for insight, investment, interaction, and impact. And the way you get there is you start with small pilots and experiment and value the learning that comes from that. So many of you may not know that Thomas Edison also invented the storage battery, and he had to conduct 10,000 experiments before he got the right formula. So we're not asking you to fail 10,000 times with social media, but that it's important to learn from your mistakes or things that didn't work and refine them. So this comes from the Humane Society a couple of years ago. After every single one of their projects, they look at, they take their measurement, they look at the ROI, they say, you know, did it work, did it not work, what can we learn from this? So the yeses are number of list members and video views divided by time spent equals good. They did a Flickr photo petition, time spent by number of entries equals bad. But did they stop doing photo contest? No, they figured out that we made it too complicated. The next photo contest, they simplified it. They got 5,000 people to sign up for their mailing list. That ROI computed. Then they did it again, and they did it a photo contest connected to fundraising, which was dog-to-person fundraising, and they did it on Facebook, and they raised $600,000. So, and that was over a span of 18 months. So it's this kind of rapid prototyping and learning and reiteration process that leads to a best practice in social media. So, and this again is talking about if you're expecting tangible results right away without doing all the engaging and the listening, you're not going to see those. But you have to respect the intangible, which is the learning, engagement, reputation, etc. If you want to know everything there is to know about social media measurement, follow Katie Payne, who is the goddess of social media measurement. She's on Twitter and she answers questions, and she's written a whole book about it. The most important thing is, so when you identify the right results, you got to find the right metrics to measure it, and know that you need to collect them over time. And so what happens is that a lot of us get caught up. Okay, we got that. I'm not going to read it. And know how to interpret the right result, because it can get complicated. So there's this idea that okay, how many of you collect lots and lots of data? Okay, how do you actually look at the data? So this idea of spreadsheet aerobics is, in social media as web analytics, you can collect hundreds and thousands of data points, but you should only collect what you need to learn from. So if it's your Facebook fan page, just collect number of new fans and your interaction scores, but don't collect those in isolation. Look at those next to what you've actually done, and that's where you get your insights. So this is a chart of the 4 I's of ROI. So the yellow is this is the I words. So we started insight, interaction, investment, and impact. And the blue is the number of months that you're using this listen, learning, and adapting. So if you look at it, as you go on, that's where you start to see the money. So if you're expecting the money at the beginning or partway out, then you need to readjust your expectations.
I'll be real quick. I'm gonna skip this slide, except for I see measuring as 2 parts: communications and marketing. If your social media is part of an integrated marketing communications. Communications deals with behavior change. That's your ultimate goal. Marketing is the financial value of that behavior change. That's kind of my framework of thinking. So what are you evaluating? I think most importantly, just as your public relations effort, just as your education department efforts, you're trying for behavior change. And what I would suggest, not having time to go deep into this, look up Are We There Yet? It's an evaluation report by the Communications Network. And that is a very, very good communications evaluation guide that will ask very tough questions to evaluate your communications effort, of which social media is part. The question then is, what is the change your organization is trying to achieve over 5 to 10 years? What behavior change are you trying to do? A mission statement, inspired goal, I think is very important. If we look at the New York Philharmonic, I think that last part is very telling. This mission statement is probably, 150 years old? But it talks about bringing art to the community, bringing classical music to the community in any other manner now known or hereafter to be. So they probably didn't foresee social media, but let's think about how social media can help you with your mission statement. And about defining your goal and kind of thinking about trying to convince your superiors or your bosses. Make it about what your boss wants. It's not about a new social media initiative. It's about a new communications initiative or a new marketing initiative or whatever context you want to place this in, and use your boss's goals and your boss's language. Don't say this will bring young people in or anything like that, superficial like that. Think about what your boss wants or what your board wants and frame it in their language. I think, as you can see, this 150-year-old language hasn't changed and is still very applicable. So that was my short evaluation.
Questions? Okay. Great, no questions. We've covered everything.